Good evening. My name is Dave Robbins. This is The Art of Politics. I'd like to introduce my co-host. You're not Ken.
No, I'm sitting in for my twin brother, Ken.
What's your name?
Thomas.
Thomas Gidge?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I knew Ken was having some trouble, but I sort of expected to see him here tonight.
Well, he's the brother that causes a lot of trouble.
Well, I know certainly that.
I can wear his clothes, by the way.
I
already
see
saw
you.
this.
You must have
Right,
because
yes.
you're not a state representative.
No, I am not. Thank God.
All right. Well, I wish we'd known that you were coming because I think we probably still have all of the stuff up that shows Ken. We don't have anything which shows Thomas Gidge.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you know what? This is television. We'll just make the best of it. I hope I can ask you some questions the way I would Ken, and I hope we can have a good discussion. Boy, this is going to be an interesting thing. But let's get right into it.
First, is this? I think my brother did. Was it Gidge World?
Your brother did, and I believe
what is this?
He does. This is called The Art of Politics. What we're doing now is a program that really centers around politics, that really talks about politics at the state, local, and national level, and how it impacts the folks in Nashua.
Okay. I'm not used to.
There's something called dead air, Thomas. We don't want to have dead air. I know you're not used to this television thing,
No.
but I do. So go ahead.
But
what are you about to say?
I have watched the show a number of times, and they had a curtain, but
Yep.
when I look at it, what I see is a background. What is that?
The background. Well, we are actually, and I'm surprised you didn't know this. We're actually up in the State House anteroom. And so the windows you see back here are the windows that look out across the street. This is where the representatives, come when they come off the floor. It gives them a chance to talk and to make deals, cut deals. So yeah, these two windows back here are looking out onto the street.
Of course, I said that, but really behind us it's green. You can see windows.
Thomas, I'm not sure what you're talking. We're in the State House anteroom.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We brought Socrates up here. We brought the studio set up here. Are you sure you're okay?
No, my brother likes to try to be funny, so he said to me, "Try to be funny," and I'm not funny.
Well,
But I want to thank you for letting.
But you are sort of amusing, so.
Oh.
Really do. I'll tell you what, Ken lately has been kind of crabby. He's been a little crabby pants recently, especially after the session yesterday. Do you have any insight into that as to what's going on with him?
Well, he came over to my home. I live in Western Massachusetts. Ken drove over, and he was extremely upset. He says that the place is nuts and crazy, and he said I was very, very lucky to live in Massachusetts and not New Hampshire.
Now, he's talking about the studio here when he talks about
No, he's talking about the politics.
Oh, the politics,
yes.
Okay.
Ken said the politics up here is just nuts. And he said,
Did he say anything specific about what?
Well, he said that the politicians were trying to, I guess there are more Republicans and Democrats up here.
That's true. Currently, the legislature is about three Republicans to every Democrat. Yes.
Well, that doesn't seem fair.
It's what the voters voted in, and that's what we got.
Well, in Massachusetts, we only have 165 state representatives. You have how many up here?
We have 400. Actually, Massachusetts has 160 state representatives.
No, they don't, actually. It's 165.
All right.
Alternates.
Alternate state
Yes,
representatives?
that's right.
I've never heard of an alternate state representative.
Well, You got to live down there.
All right. Well,
Maybe the politics in
I used to.
Massachusetts are
I used to.
kind of the politics weird.
Now, how many of these state representatives in Massachusetts are Democrat, and how many are Republican?
At this particular point, there are more Democrats, but they're acting like Republicans. Does that make sense to you?
No, this is confusing. But go ahead.
Why
Should we do anything different?
There are more Democrats because that's the land of Kennedy, actually, and we, as you know, we have quite a race taking place down there for Kennedy's seat again, and this should be very interesting. But I'm up here in New Hampshire. I really don't want to talk about Massachusetts.
Well, I can understand why. It's really not worth talking about. Yeah.
I have some traits as my brother, Ken.
Yes.
I do cause occasionally trouble, but I don't usually do it in a studio.
Well, I'm glad that the trouble you cause is out in the public and not confined to the studio.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I'll tell you what, we've had a very interesting week. Last couple of days here in the legislature. We voted on some constitutional amendments. We voted some stuff up, some stuff down. There has been contention in the House chamber, a few sharp words, a lot of, I would say, underlying disrespect shown to members in many ways. And why don't we?
In what way?
Well, you know, a member of the Democratic Party got up to speak yesterday in the House chamber, and there were audible noises, audible catcalls, I would call them almost.
Excuse me?
Yes.
A Democrat got up.
Yes, and
to speak.
And the majority did not show good decorum.
Well, that doesn't show too good for the Republican Party as a whole. I think that's disgraceful. I think people should have the opportunity to speak. The Democrats up here as odd or rude as the Republicans.
Well, I now you understand I am a registered Republican.
Yes, I know that.
And Ken's a Democrat.
He told me not to hold that against you.
Well, I appreciate that, especially not in public. And what I will say though is that my colleagues and I have a very large majority, and I think for some of us, and I hope I can exclude myself, for some of us. That majority goes to our heads, and we sort of give ourselves more license than we should.
So does that give you the right to be rude?
It shouldn't. Absolutely not.
And who was the politician who stood up there to speak?
Believe it was Lucy Weber, who's a representative from Cheshire County.
And what did she say that was so rude
awful? She didn't say anything awful, but she was the one person stuck in my mind who was not treated respectfully. But it's not unusual, and I know the folks that I sit with, oftentimes there's a lot of talking, laughter, and it's sometimes hard for me to hear what's going on. And
if that is factual, what you just said, and I take it first time I met you, factual, why would anyone want to vote for people who are rude to other people? And I believe this person was speaking in what is called the Well.
Yes, it's called the Well, which is right down by the rostrum. Yes.
Okay, standing before so many people, and then Republicans did this, and the Speaker of the House did what?
Well, the Speaker, to his credit, did bring people back to order. Just reminded people that it's appropriate for, somebody comes up, you listen to the Speaker, and you pay attention. I mean, I don't mean to lay this all on the Speaker by any stretch of the imagination. My concern is the rank and file. And I think that sometimes when one has an overwhelming majority, one takes that power for granted.
Well, we are from England. That's where our forefathers...
The Gidges?
Yes.
Okay.
And we certainly have our times over there in our parliament. But
good point.
Usually we're not rude. Where you do have 400 of you, which is quite large, and you said you're the majority. Mm-hmm. Is it the supermajority, as I call it?
Well, it's a significant majority. It's 3-1, yeah.
All right. To pick on anyone is just rude.
Well, I would agree with that only in one respect. I actually have seen what goes on in the House of Commons, at least on television, and those suckers make what we do at the State House look like tea and crumpets. They catcall, they yell, they boo, they don't listen to people.
Have you ever had a crumpet?
I have. Not for a while, but it's very tasty. Speaking of which, one of the things I wanted, if Ken had been sitting here, I was going to ask him, Ken, why have you been so crabby cakes lately? What's going on?
Actually, I said that he was in Boston tonight, and he is. Actually, he I believe, with his wife, went to see a play. I'm not sure which one, but even if he was here, my twin brother Ken was here, I don't think he'd want to come in. He said that the politics have just got to him. And I understand that yesterday he did sign up to run again. I'm not sure if he will continue to run again. I think the rudeness that has taken place over the last 2 years, also the lack of intellectual conversation and getting proper balance, it's just not here.
Now, are you saying that your brother Ken is a political wuss and that he can't handle the rough and tumble? Are you saying that he doesn't realize that politics ain't beanbags? Are you saying that he doesn't realize that politics is a grown-up's game?
Well,
I'm just asking.
I'm not jumping on you and strangling you.
Although I can see that gleam in your eye.
He probably would.
You know, he probably would. I feel a great license to go beyond the point that I usually would with you here, because I knew if I tried this on Ken, I'd get my throat taken out.
I believe you possibly would. Yes, you would.
He's not going to be coming back up at the end of the show, is he? I don't need to worry about him when I walk outside, do I?
You don't have to worry about my twin brother. He's gone, and he said I should don't try to be funny, because he's the funny one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm the...
Well, you're holding up your end of the bargain, believe me.
Thank you. And I'm the one who, I would like to think intellectual, but he doesn't believe so.
I see.
He's probably smarter than myself by 2.
Well, I certainly would agree that Ken is smarter than the average bear. And
what does that mean, average bear?
Well, have you ever heard of Yogi Bear?
Isn't he a baseball player?
He caught for the Jellystone Yankees. Yeah, that's right. And what he said, smarter than the average bear. And I certainly would agree that Ken is smarter than the average bear. But I'll tell you what.
How old are you?
Why don't we? I'm old enough to know better, but too young to care. Why don't we move on? I've got a couple of questions. If Ken were here, these are the questions I'd ask. We just got through taking a vote on something called CACR 12, and a constitutional amendment that would revise educational funding. And actually, passage required 237 votes in the House. It got 224 votes and was 13 votes shy So it did not pass. It's not going to be on the.
Not the concept will not be on the
It
ballot.
won't be on the ballot. But what it would have done would be to revise the way monies fund education, and it would give the legislature more authority and responsibility to fund public education K through 12. This was voted on. The Republican Party vote was probably about 194 or 204, and the rest against. Do you know how many Democrats voted for CACR 12?
No, I don't.
Would you be surprised to learn that only one House member voted in the Democrat Party for CACR 12?
Was he or she under the influence?
I'm not sure why, but I do know that when there was a second vote, he switched his vote and voted nay. It may be that he was voting so that he could call for a reconsideration. I don't know.
How could this? I don't. My brother, my twin brother, tries to fill me in a great deal about the politics here in the state, but I
doesn't do a very good job, does he?
Yes. Well, he gets confused.
Yep. I would agree with that. I think you're a great observer of character.
Don't let anybody see this. Please, this is. You get very very upset at me.
He would get. I don't think you need to worry. I don't think anybody sees these things.
All right. But why are you saying that all the Democrats voted one way and all the Republicans voted the other?
Oh no.
Were there any Republicans who voted for or against?
Oh yeah, there were 30, 40, or 50 Republicans who voted against the constitutional amendment, and as I say, close to 200, I think, who voted for it, and Democrats, only one voted for it, and the remainder, however many there were in the chamber at the time, 80 or 90, voted against it.
No, that would go on the ballot.
That would have gone on the ballot. Don't you? One of the things we try to talk about on this program is the art of politics is, to some extent, the art of compromise, the art of stepping forward, reaching across, that kind of thing. Do you find it surprising that all the Democrats except one voted against this constitutional amendment? They couldn't find anything in it that they liked, and it was just sort of monolithic?
Well, Mr. Robbins, you are the majority party, 3/4 or close to it, close to 300.
That's correct.
The compromise, I think, probably would have to come from your side, more so.
Well, I would think that the fact that John Lynch, the long-term Democratic governor of the state of New Hampshire, who in fact endorsed the language and had a good deal of input, I understand, in the crafting of the language, and came out in favor of the language and said, this is good, this is what I think we should vote for, here are the reasons. Are you saying that he was way off base? The leader of the Democratic Party in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, in Massachusetts, we have a governor who has 4 years. Up here, I understand that your governor is just for 2 years.
That's correct.
Well, I think that would drive anyone crazy, first of all. I know it drives. Well, I know it drives Ken crazy. Every 2 years, you must run again. So I take it that he tells me that he probably has 8 or 9 months before he must start thinking about running again. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine a governor who is probably, and this is his last term.
He is not running for re-election. This is the 4th 2-year term, so he will have been governor for 8 years when he leaves office.
Well, maybe he was attempting to leave something as his historic Well, all politicians try to do something good. Is this good? Would this have been good?
Are you asking me personally, or are you asking sort of the greater question?
Well, you're the only one sitting here.
Well, me and Socrates. But
Yeah,
all right.
by the way, what the hell is this?
Well, this is Bumpy Boy, but we can get into this in just a sec. This is one of Ken's favorites, and in fact, if I'd known that he wasn't going to be here,
Yes.
I would have brought in one of my bobbleheads.
That's my brother.
Yeah, yes, it is, and all I can say is better you than me.
Can you imagine being a twin brother to him?
I can. I hope that you were born first.
Sorry to say, I was not. There was about 2 minutes difference, and he holds it against me. But I keep telling him, but I have a college education, and he is an artist, from what I understand.
Well,
I do have some of his work.
That certainly is the way he bills himself.
Yeah,
but let's go back here for just a second. What I hear you saying, and of course, what I also hear you saying is you're speaking based on what you've talked with Ken about. But what I hear you saying is that Ken thinks that the Democrat governor, Governor Lynch, is a fraud who's only in this so that he can somehow leave his mark on posterity, and that he caved in to whatever forces are out there to get behind this amendment, this constitutional amendment. Is that what you're saying, Ken says?
How many governors have attempted to do this?
I believe since the Claremont decisions came about, I think every governor, I don't know how many, 3, 4, 5.
And no one has succeeded as of yet?
I understand this is the first time that it's gotten this close.
All right, then maybe the governor was wrong.
Which governor?
Governor Lynch.
I see. So in other words, Governor Lynch was wrong on this,
well,
and Terry Norelli was right. Is that correct? She's the speaker. She's the former Speaker of the House and the current Democratic Majority Leader.
Okay.
And I understand, was she a teacher?
Why do you ask me? I'm from Massachusetts.
Right, but I'm figuring that you talked with Ken. I understand she was involved with the...
well, he doesn't like her.
Some of the teachers' unions. I see, all right.
I think what Ken said was that she doesn't like him either.
Well, that's...
But to get back to the governor,
yeah.
If this was so good, and he is a Democrat, why didn't the Democratic Party go with him on this?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question. That's essentially the question I'm asking, and I could make up all sorts of hypotheses as to why that happened, but I honestly don't know. It surprises me. I mean, here we have the Republican Party, which is diverse enough to have a wide range of responses to this amendment. And then we have the Democrat Party, which at least in its actions on this amendment is monolithic and absolutely without compromise or diversity. And it just seems that it's a little bit unusual.
The word monolithic may be the wrong word to use. Could you use another one to explain what you just said?
Well, when I said monolithic, I was thinking of entirely self-contained, individual, not able to consider outside influences, unified, and not listening to other points of view.
Okay, so of which party? The Republicans,
no,
Democrats?
What I'm saying is at least on this issue, the Republicans were the party of diversity with diverse opinions. The Democrats were not. The Democrats were my way or the highway.
How many Republicans voted for it?
I don't have an exact figure, but I think somewhere short of 200.
200 voted for it?
And I think 40 or 50 Republicans voted against it.
How many voted for it?
I said just about 200. Oh, no, actually, it would have had to have been 223. I'm sorry. Very good point. Thank you.
Okay.
And 40 or 50 voted against it.
Were you there yesterday?
I was.
All right. Well, I think what Ken said was my twin brother, who's actually, I think he's crazy. But again, don't tell him that. My twin brother, I think he was so happy to get out of there yesterday. It was just, he said, insane. And he said that this last 2 years, the only good thing about this last 2 years was yesterday, which was basically the end of it. He said that the thought that the citizens of the state of New Hampshire was safe because the politicians are out for the summer. Is that factual? Do you feel the same way?
Well, there is one more scheduled session, and it's June 27th, and it's what's called Veto Day. And Veto Day is when the House and Senate meet and consider any vetoes that the governor has put forward on any of the bills that have gotten to his desk. And the House and Senate decide whether or not they're going to override. They have to vote on whether or not to override the veto. And
that would be the governor's veto.
The governor's veto. And it appears, I know there's at least one bill already that's been vetoed that we'll take up, and I think the governor said he will veto the medical marijuana bill, and I suspect some others.
Well, that's very interesting. Medical marijuana. It's very sad when they have dissected the chemistry of it. It's so simplistic that I think if people realized how benign it is to almost anything, a Valium or Ativan, I mean, a whole bunch of drugs that are very addictive. Marijuana does something a lot different, and I certainly know growing up with my brother who smoked a lot of marijuana. But to call it medical marijuana, I think that's fair.
Did your brother smoke around you at all?
No, I was more the studious one, and he was he was Ken Gidge. Right. He was my brother.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
You may.
And I don't mean to get personal about this, and I hope you understand that. I don't mean to be flippant.
Okay.
Have you had a lobotomy?
I think that's awfully rude of you to say that.
Well, that's why I apologize in advance.
If my brother's not here to defend himself, and I'm afraid that you may not be in the same. I'm not my brother.
Well, no, I know that. The reason, let me tell you why I ask. Your affect is very flat, and you're speaking, certainly I'm used to Ken talking, and Ken just goes on and on and on. You are very measured, slow-paced, and I really did not mean to be flippant.
I think I can understand why my brother does that. You're semi-boring, actually.
I've been told that.
Called me a lobotomy.
I don't think. I think that's kind of fun. I mean, I think that raises also. I'm trying to raise the energy level here. I mean, this is.
Well,
Thomas, you're killing us. You are killing us.
You do not do that with rudeness, as I think your Republicans at the House did yesterday to this poor, I'm sure, Democrat. And what was this Democrat talking about, by the way?
I honestly don't recall.
So you were one of the people who were giving them a hard time.
No, I couldn't hear. That was part of the problem is when people start talking around me, I don't have very good hearing, so I couldn't hear.
Well, didn't you ask people to be quiet?
I have done that in the past, yes.
You didn't yesterday, so
no.
It was okay for you to do that?
Well, it's as I say, I have done that in the past. I did almost get up and walk down to the well, and truth be told, I figured this is the last session except for veto day. Let's just get through it. The same way I think Ken might have felt about just getting through it and getting out.
Why don't you just tell him go down and go to hell? That's
Well,
that's
I don't.
awful. It's supposedly the last day before, as you call it, veto day.
Right. No,
Um,
I don't do that. I try to keep a modicum of decorum when I'm on the floor. It's only when I get into a situation like this where I ask really snarky questions, like, you didn't answer me. Have you had a lobotomy?
I told my twin brother that I would stay here, and I will, but I would appreciate it if you wouldn't say that. That's not nice. Uh, he told me that you were an interesting person, but I find that awful.
Yep.
So I would appreciate that you don't
Well,
say that. I will not. I will not stay if you do that again. And maybe what Ken was talking about in the politics and the people down here, maybe you are possibly one of the individuals though he likes, he says, my twin brother, but maybe you're one of the individuals that might be the cause. You just said that you didn't know what the Democrat was saying, but yet you did not stop the people around you from being rude. Are you one of the problems?
I would like to hope that I'm more the solution than the problem, and I think that
Well, it didn't happen yesterday.
no, it didn't, and I'm not sure that what I said would have had any impact one way or another, and I guess
Well, you don't know.
I get that's true. So I guess I have to make a decision on that the same way we all have to make those decisions.
Well, I think it's the person who decides to stand up when others don't and walk forth, even though you may feel like you're silly or out of place. Maybe you are in some cases. I think it's that type of person who later on shows to have some character.
Now, does that mean that if I get nasty enough here, you will stand up and walk off?
Well, my brother was the street fighter. I was the boxer.
You were the boxer, okay.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Were you in a clearing, standing? You were a fighter by your trade, I take it.
No. I was very fortunate to get knocked out on the preliminary rounds, fighting at those days for the middleweight championship. I got to about, I would say, 4 rounds, meaning I would have had to fight 3 more people, and I was lucky I was knocked out. Very happy. As you can see, my brother was in an automobile accident. Actually, we both were at separate times. As you can see, my face. My brother's face is the same, but his is basically from street fighting. No, I was not ranked. I was up into that area, but I never got to be ranked as a boxer.
Well,
professional.
I have to admit that I am an absolute non-fighter physically. I think I've been in. I think I might have thrown 1 punch in my life and it missed.
I think you're right when you say you're not a fighter, because if you were a fighter, you would have stood up yesterday when there's an individual was being rudely talked to. Even in our parliament, there's a lot of play and fooling around, and occasionally somebody will say something, and both parties will go after that individual.
Well, you know, you raise a very valid point, and I'll tell you something. It's something that I've thought about, and it's something I've thought about during the session, and I've thought about what can I do over the long term to help move the level of dialogue forward in appropriate fashion. And one of the things that I think
let me stop you for a second. I made fun of this statue. Of course,
you did?
This was giving to our family. It was white, and I can see my brother painted it copper, I think. Sprayed it a copper.
Well, somebody did, that's for darn sure.
Yes, this was a replica of the one that's in the London Museum.
I see. Is copper in the London Museum? Is it?
No, it's actually it is. I won't know. It wouldn't be a sandstone. It would be.
Oh, Thomas.
Pardon me?
Move it along, please.
All right, okay. Well, I think what I'm trying to say is this is wisdom. And I think it sounds like you need a little bit of wisdom in your politics here in the state of New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just you must understand that living in Massachusetts and being the brother of Ken Gidge, his twin brother, New Hampshire of late has been on Massachusetts television a lot, and it certainly has not made this state look good. It's
Mm-hmm.
made this state look buffoonish.
Now, why is that?
I would say rudeness. You did have a gentleman recently who was expelled, who I believe he was a top politician in your form of government here, for cheating or lying or something.
Oh, yes.
Stealing
I think you're referring to the Republican Majority Leader, David Betancourt, who resigned a couple of weeks ago in a under less than honorable circumstances.
Well, also you had a gentleman named Valancourt, I believe, and it was the most odd thing that Mr. Valancourt, I believe he's a Republican.
Steve Valancourt, a representative from Manchester, yes, a
Yes.
Republican.
And I believe that he was on the side of a Democrat. And I believe your Speaker of the House was treating the Democrat poorly. I believe he thought that was factual. So he started to argue with the Speaker of the House.
From the floor of the chamber,
Correct,
yes.
correct. And, well, we saw that.
Yeah, and what did he say?
Well, it sounded like he was Heil Hitler, but we found out it certainly wasn't that. The meaning that how it was explained was quite simply that he believed that the Speaker of the House here in New Hampshire was not conducting himself evenly or properly.
Well, that's a wonderful way of saying that he said Sieg Heil to the Speaker on the floor of the House, and as a result was banished from the House until he came in and made an appropriate apology.
Well, that's the type of stuff in Massachusetts we hear about New Hampshire. I mean, you may be of the party, the majority party, but I think the majority party and possibly the minority party should learn some manners. That certainly was one thing that we were brought up with. Right. My father used to say, with manners you can go a long way. Well, but when you see the awful, awful mistakes that just, I guess, in a parliamentary way, that the mistakes here in the state of New Hampshire make are awful. And this is the stuff we hear. And in fact, when my brother Ken asked me to come up here, he said, please don't tell him exactly what you think, because if you do, they probably won't invite you back.
Well, Thomas, that certainly would not be the deciding factor, but I really do appreciate the fact and the point that you're making, that about the civility and the ethics of the Massachusetts House of Representatives as opposed to the current House of Representatives in New Hampshire, which is Republican dominated. Massachusetts, of course, Democrat dominated. And oh, wait a minute. I just remembered. Didn't 3 out of the last 4 speakers, Democratic speakers in the Massachusetts House, go to prison for ethical and financial failures and breaking the law and perjury?
And what is keeping your speaker out of jail?
He hasn't done anything to go to jail.
I believe.
So but wait a minute. Here we are talking about this grand ethical House of Representatives in Massachusetts.
You're going to let me answer it?
No, you know, it's because you didn't answer it. You went off on a tangent. I mean, here what I'm saying is, you're holding out the House of Representatives in Massachusetts, the leadership especially, and you're saying the leadership in New Hampshire doesn't live up to that. Well, of course, no. The leadership in New Hampshire doesn't live down to it. Isn't that the case? Are you holding the leadership in the Democratic House up to a
I am
emulation?
not in politics. I would just as soon stay out of politics.
Oh, you're in the wrong seat then.
Well, I guess I am. But my brother, it's too bad. I think he would probably be very good at it if he would hold his temper, probably speak a little slower, also use the intellect that he was brought up with, but he just flies off. Now, in Massachusetts, politics down there is a blood sport. They get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, from what I understand, the politicians make $100 a year.
Before taxes, yes.
Yes.
That's
Well,
correct.
then people would ask, why do you do it?
Well, we like to think that the voters get what they pay for.
Well, it seems that this term they didn't get what they paid for.
Well, maybe they did.
They spent too much money.
Well, that certainly is an
And that's
interesting...
probably why my brother said, for me, definitely to say several times that it's the citizens of the state of New Hampshire are lucky because the politicians are out for the summer.
That's right.
Other than going back for one more veto day, as you call it.
That's true. We will get out July 1st, and folks won't hear from us for almost 6 months. You were talking about the state of New Hampshire being lucky. Let's talk for a minute about the state of Wisconsin, because one of the things that's happened this past week is Scott Walker, the governor of the state of Wisconsin, fended off a recall election, fended it off quite handily. I think it was close to 60-40 win for Walker. And the Democrats and union forces, according to what the newspaper said, were trying to unseat Walker because he wasn't very nice to organized labor and state workers. What's your thought on that? Do you think that's there are implications there?
I think it's called money. I believe that Wisconsin, there was 30, 40 million put into it. I believe the opponent of the governor got only 1/3 of the funds. And when you have 2/3 of the money, which would be, well, let's say 75 cents to a quarter, money is everything in politics, isn't it?
Well, money hopefully isn't everything, but it certainly is a big issue. And actually, I think it might have been even more lopsided. I think it might have been 4-1.
Then
as
you
opposed to
asked,
the
why ask me the question?
Well, because I wanted
Did you want my opinion?
I wanted to hear what you were thinking, and then I wanted to ask a follow-up question. And the follow-up question was, here Barack Obama won Wisconsin by about 14 percentage points in 2008, and now Walker just charges back, and I believe by a larger majority than he actually won by when he was elected. Do you think that there are implications for this fall in the Wisconsin race, Wisconsin has traditionally been very Democratic? Traditionally been very Democratic.
Well, I think that maybe the loss in Wisconsin is good for the Democratic Party, and I am a Democrat. For the Democratic Party, simply they now see what people can do with money. Money brings people out. Also, I believe the lying that took place. I believe the night before the election, it was put out by the Walker people, Governor Walker's people, that if you had signed a petition, you didn't have to go and vote. So
I hadn't heard that.
How many people did not go and vote for that? I mean, there is dirty and rotten. I was ashamed of the United States, and I am a citizen. what they did, stealing the election away from a Democrat, and Al Gore and George Bush. Matter of fact, that happened twice in our history. One time is, I believe, when Mark Twain was alive. He was awfully upset about it. And you can't do that. It's like the courts turned and elected a president, and the people really didn't get to. So I would think that what Walker's did by the election, what happens by this election is that I have a feeling that Labor will absolutely come out with a vengeance. I have a feeling that your party up here, the Republican Party, excuse me, that's the majority, might be in deep trouble. I think because there are so many representatives up here, I believe that they will do all that they can do. And I think Walker winning actually probably was more loss for the Republican Party. I think we got an idea of what the politics will be in the next year.
Are you saying you think the politics will be filthy, will be dirty?
Very much so.
All right. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Follow-up question to this. One of the things that's going on in the country is there are cities, even in California, which have recently passed referenda to lower public pensions and by cutting pensions of city workers, San Jose and San Diego. And this is California, and this is what Walker is talking about. Do you see increasing pressure on state governments and local governments to talk tough with unions and reduce benefits and reduce wages?
Well, first of all, I think one must understand that we are in the second worst recession that this country has seen. And the first, our parents would talk about it, and where there are literally lines to go into soup kitchens and bread, and executives selling apples on street corners. Well, we sort of don't see that now. But the financial aspect of what's taking place in this country has nothing to do with a Democrat or a Republican. And it doesn't make any difference if it was a Democrat or a Republican that caused it. We are in awful times, and during these awful times, what takes place is awful mistakes. For anyone to blame a union, to blame an individual or a party, is probably ignorance at its worst or best.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I take from that you would not blame the Republican Party, for example, in New Hampshire about the economic situation in the state, because this is greater than...
No, well, it's
sorry.
also not the Democrats either.
I think that there is... I would tend to agree with you. I think it's unfair to take a small slice and place blame. I think what we have to look at is the entire spectrum, and I think what we have to do is look for ways to work together to get better.
Well, you can never...
Build bridges, don't burn them.
No, well, I think when I hear people say that, excuse me, that they must work together, you can never work together with the economy the way that it is. And when I hear people say that you must do this and you must do that and you must cut this and you must cut that, blaming one another and yet forgetting that this is not just a bad economy in the United States, it's a world economy. And maybe some people could argue that it was the United States that caused it. Putting that all aside, if you just take a look at how people treat, especially politicians, and the things that the politicians are getting away with, the laws that they're probably putting in or taking out that they would never do under the circumstances if the economy was better. I haven't seen too many people. I know that the president has tried with a stimulus, starting with putting people to work, such as on our highways and our bridges, which means you're putting people to work. People who work pay taxes. They live, they buy homes, they buy cars, they buy
What are you trying to
foods.
say?
I think that the Republican Party, that happens to be the majority right now, is making a big mistake
By what?
by making examples, especially up here in New Hampshire. The rudeness is a perfect example.
So you are blaming the Republican Party?
No, I'm only repeating what you told me. What took place.
Well, no, but I raised it as an issue, and now I hear the Republicans, and we were talking about the economy in the state, and I was saying that I think that what we needed to do was to look for ways to work together and build bridges to come up with solutions to problems rather than just beating each other over the head.
Well, I think you mentioned the word bridges, and I did also, in about two passages to about two paragraphs back, and that is exactly that. How much money have you put in to your infrastructure here in the state of New Hampshire?
Well,
Nothing?
I gave I made a campaign donation to your brother for $25, and I would like to view that as a gesture of goodwill, a gesture of bridging, a gesture of saying that even though we're from different parties and we may be running against each other, I respect him, I share some of his values, and I hope that if the situation warrants, we can work together.
Well, maybe he is right. Maybe the citizens here in the state of New Hampshire are very lucky that you, as a politician, and he as a politician, are gone for the summer. I think he said the state is safe.
Ah, okay. Well, there is one of I'm not really gone for the summer. I'm going to be up in Concord, certainly a fair amount of time.
Doing what?
Well, I'm on a committee that's got a couple of bills that we're looking at. We've got an interim study on a couple of bills, and we'll be working on that. And
just Republicans?
No, we have a subcommittee, and
is it equally balanced?
No, it's a subcommittee with 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and there may be some others.
But I thought you told me just now that you all thought you should work together.
We are.
Well, it's not balanced. You just said it's not balanced.
Subcommittees are always an odd number of people.
Well, how odd in this case?
Well, given the fact, some of the people on the committee, oh no, we're not odd as a result of that. No, we're fairly well balanced. But
well,
I just was saying, well, I was saying that there will be stuff going on, and of course, you know that Ken is going to be writing new legislation, and it's getting time to start working on things for the fall. And so
I'm not sure he's. I think he's pretty unhappy, and I'm not sure if he will put his heart and soul into running. I think this last 2 years has upset my twin brother very, very much.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I think this is probably an appropriate time to take our leave in just a moment, but certainly something that I would like to ask Ken about the next time I see him. I'd like to ask him why he feels disheartened, why he feels that after only 2 terms, he might be losing his fastball, losing his pitch, and ready to step down into the minor leagues or leave the game entirely. That concerns me because I think that he is a strong voice, a strong advocate, somebody who's smart, somebody who brings something to the table, and I would hate to miss him.
Well, most of my family don't feel that way.
For God's sakes, don't tell him that, because he'll get a swelled head, and he'll get even more of a shiny spot on his forehead than he usually has.
Are you being rude again?
No, he's not here. And,
okay.
And besides, you agree with me anyway, I know. I can tell. So Thomas,
no, not entirely.
What would you like to say in closing? What would you like to tell our audience?
How much time do we have?
We have got about 30 seconds.
Well, he did want me to mention that he has a website, Gidge World, which is I believe it's his art site, and an email address, Gidge, that's Gidge at AOL.com. And I don't know why he wants to give his cell phone number out, but it is 603 886 90. I'm sorry, 864 9332.
That's 603-864-9332.
Yes, it is.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us, or?
No, I want to thank you for letting me come. And when I see my brother, I'm going to be very upset because I'm very uncomfortable right now.
Well, you handled yourself very well.
Thank
you. If we may, it's time for us to go out. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, when that camera comes on, there we go, like to thank you all for stopping in tonight, joining us. We are going to start a couple of new segments of the show at some point in the near future. We're going to have an in-studio audience, and we'll tell you more about that going on. And also, we invite you to send an email in. We have a new segment coming up next week called Ask Kenny. And if you would care to send your questions in to my email address, that's davidsrobbins@comcast.net. We'd like to find out what Kenny thinks about things. And, of course, if Thomas wants to come back, we'd be happy to talk with him.
I wouldn't come back with my brother.
Boy, given the tenor of the program, boy, do I miss Ken. So, Thomas, hey, it's really good to talk with you, and we'll get, I'll help you out, probably walking very slowly. And with that, we'll say good night. So say good night to the camera. Good night. Thank you very much.